Hey yo, what is up? Welcome to Ninja Geek Games. This episode we are going to do a setup for Barbarians the Invasion. We're going to do a solo playthrough using the Hunt expansion. That's going to be part one, and in part two we are going to do the complete playthrough of that game. Let's take a look at the setup. So we're going to do the setup in two stages. The first part we're going to look at the main board and the player setup. And then the second part, we'll look at the war map with the Hunt expansion. So the first thing you need to do is assemble the volcano and place it on the indicated space on the board. Now each of these rings will only fit in one particular area of the volcano, and these are double-sided, and we're using the Hunt expansion side. So the game comes with loads of god cards, building cards, and war chiefs cards. But in the solo game, you randomly select 10 gods, 10 war chief, and 14 building cards. Shuffle them together to make a deck. I'll place that here. The remaining cards are returned to the game box. You won't be needing those, except you randomly draw one god card to place next to your player board, and this will be yours for the game. So I have drawn Tremoran, and we'll have a look at what that does in a second. But we do draw the top 7 cards from this deck, and these can be used during the game. I'll put that one here. So in this area here we place the Feast and Demon cards, and each of the slots has a different icon representing a tankard for the Feast and sort of like a demon's head for the demon cards. And we'll put cards in there face up, so it ends up being 3 of each. So we've already chosen our clan board. We now need to get all the player pieces, and this includes 4 knowledge discs for each of the tracks. We have 4 champion meeples. There are 8 banner tokens, which will be used to claim land on the war map. We've got 2 coloured cubes matching our clan colour. One is for the honour track, which will be used later, and the other one is for scoring victory points. We take a resource marker and place each of them on spot 3, because we always start the game with 3 resources. And one of each type of the troop miniatures, which are the Archer, Berserker and Raider, and we start with 2 of each of the warriors. And our last disc starts on space 0 of the honour track. Now because I've received a god card at the start of the game, you can see it has 3 Dominion points, so I'll move that now. And I can choose to place one of these knowledge tokens on position 1 of any 2 tracks, or position 2 of any 1 track. So I've chosen here to place my player discs on position 1 of 2 different tracks, and I could have chosen these anywhere. So I've placed my first one on the ship on the top track, which means when I take the war action, I can choose to do so in the starting region or travel across the seas to Arvia. And the second player token has gone onto the buildings. And you need these so that if you get any building cards during the games, you can actually activate them at the start of the round. When playing solo, you need meeples for the AI, and I've chosen the green champion meeples. And they need to go onto the volcano with 1 meeple on each ring. And I'll do it randomly with a die. So we'll select this icon here as number 1. I've rolled a 5, so I'll be on position 5. And I'll start that as position 1. I've rolled another 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Roll again. 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It goes to here. And lastly, for the last meeple, I rolled a 3. So 1, 2, 3. The AI player also gets 4 tokens per track. An additional 1 as well for the honour track. The AI comes with a set of fate cards to determine how they play during a turn. There are only 6 of them, but every time you draw one, you'll shuffle one back into the deck again, and they'll get placed here. And lastly, the AI will also have a set of banner tokens, because they can claim land on the war map as well. And now we'll take a look at the war map setup. So now we're going to look at setting up the war map. And as we're using the Hunt expansion, we use the horizontal map. This is double-sided. When playing the base game, you use a vertical map. And if you've got the Kickstarter, you actually got 2 different double-sided maps to use. So the first thing we do is place the first conquest token. So if I'm able to conquer one of these islands before the AI player, I gain one of them. If the AI player does it, then that just negates me from being able to grab these. Next, we place 1 faction token randomly in all the regions that do not have a 3+ or 4+ icon, because we are playing a solo game. And once that's done, we can then turn them over. And there are 4 different factions, each represented by a different colour. And if you're able to move your banners onto these and claim them, you gain the number of domination points located on the token. We then place the hunt markers on all regions in the first island, which is Arvia. I then place my Skull Crusher meeple in the starting region. And for the war action, each region has its own deck of cards that you draw from, depending on where you're attacking, which are here. And then for these hunt markers, they all have their individual deck of monsters and beast cards, which you'll draw from. Now when playing multiplayer with the Hunt expansion, you use these magma tokens. There are normally 8, but you select 4 of them to randomly go on the volcano, with 1 token going on each of the rings. And during a multiplayer game, if one of your meeples lands on one of these spaces, then all other players have to pay that resource or troop. Now I really want to use these, and you can't do that in the solo version of the game. So I'm going to house rule here, where I'm going to stick 4 random ones on the volcano, and anytime the AI meeples find their way onto one of these spaces, I'm then going to have to pay that resource. Right, so we're all set up to play. As you can see, it is a bit of a table eater. I've placed the magma tokens. You've used 4 of them. I've placed them randomly on the volcano rings already. This is my player area. This here will be the market deck that I can draw from, that contains the buildings, war chiefs, and the god cards. There are 2 additional modules that I won't be using today. One of them is the bonus tiles, which sit in here, which means that each of the factions gets a different bonus tile for the start of the game for a bit of asymmetric play. But during solo, that makes the game a little bit too easy. And also there are these objective cards, and each player can have one. And these are kept secret during the game, where this gives you a bonus point scoring system at the end of the game. Or you can discard the card to negate this effect at the end of the game to get an immediate bonus on your turn. But playing with solo mode, I don't see the need for doing that, because you do keep them hidden from the rest of the players. So that's the setup finish, and now we can start building, gaining knowledge, appeasing gods, and pillaging regions on the war map. So that completes part 1, the setup of the game. Stay tuned for part 2, where we do a complete solo playthrough.